Hey everyone, it is Sunday, March the 4th, around noon, and I am back in the Shining Rock Wilderness of Pisgah National Forest. I was here a little over a month ago in January, hiking to Shining Rock and Grassy Cove Top. Today I decided to hike in the westernmost section in an area that I believe receives the least amount of traffic in the entire wilderness. I started at Camp Daniel Boone, which is beside the Little East Fork of the Pigeon River. It is the trailhead for the Loeb Trail and the Little East Fork Trail. And the last time I was here was 6 years ago when I did that backpacking trip up to Cold Mountain and Shining Rock. But instead of taking those trails, I'm following forest roads from the camp that pass by some logging operations and eventually lead to High Top, which is one of the most prominent peaks on Fork Mountain. Fork Mountain is a really long massif that begins at Ivester Gap and runs northwest, dividing the watersheds of the West Fork Pigeon River and the Little East Fork. There's a very primitive trail that begins at Ivester Gap and follows most of Fork Mountain and then drops all the way down to Sunburst Campground along the West Fork. I'm using these forest roads to connect to High Top, and then I think a forest road connects to the Fork Mountain Trail, and then I'll climb up to Birdstand Mountain, and I believe there's a hidden meadow somewhere along the mountain around there. If not, I'm still going to peak bag Birdstand Mountain and then drop down to Little East Fork and then return using that trail. This is a roughly 9 to 10 mile loop. I'm using some tracks that I found online thanks to Jeff Reinhardt and Bradley Reese on Peak Bagger. If you don't get those tracks, or if you don't use my track, you will have a hard time finding your way along these forest roads, especially near the bottom. There's just a ton of crisscrossing roads for the first mile. The trailhead started around 3,200 feet, and High Top is listed as 5,263 feet, so it's quite a climb of around 2,000 feet elevation gain. I believe it's around 3.5 miles to the top. I'm already at 4,500 because I've been hiking for over an hour, and I should be there in about 30 minutes or so. Hope you enjoy this hike. I forgot to mention, I'm trying out a couple of my new items today. One of them is so obvious that I need to point it out, which is my new hat. I bought this over a month ago in preparation for a road trip late this summer out west and southwest, where I plan to do some state high points in the Great Basin Desert and in the Rockies. And my regular Duke hat does not cut it at those elevations and with that sun. So I bought this a month ago in preparation. I really should have used it 2 weeks ago when I hiked along Pond Mountain and Stone Mountain, because I got pretty roasted. So this is an Outdoor Research Sunrunner cap. It's basically their regular warm weather vented cap with snaps that attach these flaps that basically surround my whole face. So it's pretty nifty. I'm enjoying it so far. It vents really well, and it basically protects everything but the lower half of my face. So the earlier this week, the northwester blew through the East Coast and it cleared out everything. It's really nice and sunny today. I have not seen a cloud yet, so if I wore my Duke hat, I probably would have gotten some bad sunburn again. The other thing I'm trying out is my new Camelback Crux 2 liter to replace my Camelback Antidote 1.5 liter, which was beginning to leak at the hose connection. I thought I'd like it more than I do. I don't like the angled mouthpiece. I kind of like the perpendicular 90-degree angle on the Antidote. It's a little harder to drink out of this. Otherwise, I've only been using it for an hour, so my opinion might change. But anyway, I thought I'd at least point these new items out. I'm just below the summit of High Top on the southwest side. And there's a series of these wide open sloping rock faces. That one looked pretty steep, but I'm on one right now with really awesome views to the west. The big double hump peak is Richland Balsam, the tallest peak in the Great Balsam Mountains. Then the flatter peak straight ahead is Reinhardt Knob. I did both of those back in October. And this really large drainage in between them is the right-hand prong. This drainage that's kind of tucked in here, that's middle prong, which I backpacked about a year and a half ago. You can hear the water roaring down below. Way down here, that's the West Fork. And then Sunburst Campground is right down there where middle prong and West Fork converge. And then the Green Mountain Trail, the really steep, difficult trail that leaves the campground that I backpacked, follows the top of this ridge all the way up. And one of those peaks is Green Knob. Might be the one in the foreground or maybe the highest one in the background because it's around 5,900 feet. And I'm not sure if I can see Mount Hardy from here. That might be behind them, kind of blocked by my vantage point. It's kind of hard to move around here. These rocks are pretty sloped and steep, but the tall peak through the trees there, that's the north summit of Sam Knob. Another massive rock face closer to the summit. This trail basically passes by a lot of rock faces. I haven't explored any of the others. I'm going to turn around once I reach the summit, so I figure get there first. This is really cool. This has a better south view with a Green Knob on the right. And one of these peaks is Birdstand Mountain, probably in the foreground. And then the big peak is Sam Knob. And the pointy peak on the right behind it is Little Sam Knob. And deep in there, in between Green Knob and Sam Knob, is the gorge of the West Fork Pigeon River. We even have open views now of Black Balsam Knob, which is the really wide, flat summit up there. I think I found the best open perch right down here. I'm gonna go check it out. The exposure on these rocks is incredible. This is definitely the best viewpoint so far. Just keeps going down and down, more open spots to check out. Probably the best open views I'll get of Richland Balsam and the right-hand prong watershed. You can even see, I couldn't see it earlier, but you can see a Highway 215 snaking right through there. And from this rock, I got much better open views to the south. You can see more of the Fork Mountain Massif. One of these peaks is Birdstand Mountain. And then you got Tennant Mountain and Black Balsam Knob up there. And the rocks I was on earlier are kind of down there, but it's just constant western exposure. Hopefully on my way back when I turn around, maybe I could find a rock like this on the eastern side. At the summit of High Top, 5,263 feet. It's a ranked North Carolina 5,000 footer, which is one of the reasons I decided to bag it. The trail from the last viewpoint to here is very overgrown for the last few hundred yards. But this is the site of former lookout tower. There's some old structural stuff lying around. I don't know what this thing is. Interesting. And there's a concrete footing for the tower. I forget when it was removed. Anyways, I'm gonna continue north a little from the summit and see if I can find a viewpoint before turning around. I initially passed this small viewpoint, which is just below the summit, and stopping here on the way back, I'm glad I did. It's not as expansive of a view, but it is my first view due west of the Great Balsam Mountains. Really cool framing. This is Cold Spring Knob. Then this gap is a Deep Gap, and on the right is Lickstone Bald. And right in between them, above Deep Gap, is Plot Balsam on the right with that huge drop off on the north face, and Mount Lynn Lowry on the left. At the summit of Birdstand Mountain, my GPS has it listed as 5,285 feet. I'm not sure if that's completely accurate, but online and on my maps it's at the 5,280 foot contour. So it's, you know, about 20 feet higher than high top, which you can kind of see through the trees here. There's actually a nice scar on the way up. I'll go show you those views in a second. Here's an open rock face on the east side of the summit of Birdstand Mountain. Somewhat open views of the Little East Fork watershed and the high peaks above it. On the right, the double hump that's kind of bald looking is Grassy Cove Top. And then this U, dead center, is Flower Gap. And Shining Rock is on the left. Kind of an indistinct summit, but you may be able to see that white quartzite shining in the video. But a cool thing that you can see from here is this unnamed tributary drainage that has Boulder Field Falls. I think that waterfall is about 100 feet, at least from what I can remember from Kevin Adams' book. And that's actually something I'm considering tagging on to this hike if I have enough time. It looks like pretty steep terrain to get up there. I think it's about 400 feet above the trail, and it's a hazardous bushwhack, but it looks very impressive from here. And there's good water flow from rain earlier this week, so we'll see if I have time to do it. I forgot that I haven't even shown the map yet. Again, I'm using the Shining Rock and Middle Prong Wilderness map by the USDA. I parked right here at the Daniel Boone Boy Scout Camp. And the Art Loeb Trail goes in that direction. This orange trail, which means it's also rated as a horse trail, that's the Little East Fork Trail. But I used a mixture of forest roads that heads up the mountain there towards High Top. They're not on this map, but they're on some phone maps I have and everything. And you can find good layers online on CalTopo to kind of help you track it. From High Top, I went south, and you can see shortly below the mountain, it connects with the Fork Mountain Trail, and I've been heading southwest on it, and I just summited Birdstand Mountain, and I'm actually in a gap that's basically right where that 109 symbol is, and there's a old road behind me that I can shorten the hike, and it basically connects all the way up here towards Cathy Ridge. That's the shortest way to do this loop. there's also another trail that is supposed to begin soon and head down this way and basically meet the Little East Fork Trail right at that river crossing. So I think I'm going to try that option. It's 3 o'clock. The Little East Fork Trail is pretty easy, so I'm not worried about that. But the waterfall, Boulderfield Falls, is basically right here on the map. And so if I take the trail down to the river crossing, then I'll be pretty close to the waterfall bushwhack if I want to do that. If not, then I get to enjoy the entire trail along the river for my return. So I was exploring this little side trail off of the Fork Mountain Trail shortly after the saddle I was just in, and I see to the right of me is this awesome series of open rock faces. And checking the topo, that is actually the west side of Birdstand Mountain, and it actually looks like it's really close to that saddle area I was in, which I believe is just right over here. Can't believe I couldn't really see it from where I was standing, but that looks like an amazing viewpoint. It looks kind of vertical towards the bottom, but towards the top it looks manageable. So I think I'm going to turn around and explore that for a bit. Wow, that was a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. It took me about 20 minutes. I basically almost bushwhacked all the way back up to the summit. But this time, I came through incredibly thick shrubs. I was crawling on my knees for most of it. Very thick. I gotta find a better way to get back because I was starting lower, and this is a lot steeper than I thought it was gonna be. It's almost vertical. It's very dangerous. Where I took the previous video was that little exposed rock segment over there. This is an amazing view. You got Tennant Mountain, Black Balsam Mountain, this drainage right here, that's Sam Branch, and the tallest peak straight ahead, Sam Knob. It is probably the best view you're gonna get of the West Fork Pigeon River Gorge. You can see Highway 215 climbing up through there, and some of the rapids on the river pretty easily. Where the highway zigzags right here, the bridge over the river, that's where Sunburst Falls is. And we have a really nice view of Green Knob, but the sun's kind of washing that out. Stumbled across a small 20-foot waterfall. Could be more upstream, but I'm not going to bother. There's no name for this creek, but it flows through an area called Cathy Cove, so I'll refer to it as Cathy Cove Branch. It's a pretty small creek, so it might look pretty dry and just wet rock in the summer, but I don't think I've seen this before on any maps or books or anything. So maybe it's called Cathy Cove Falls from now on. I'm gonna keep heading down, it's getting late. So, it's around 5:40 p.m. I just finished the Little East Fork Trail, and I'm following the last few hundred yards of the hike through the campground, and I'm really glad it's over. It's gonna end up being around 11 miles, maybe 11 and a half, and it took me 7 hours. There's a good reason for that. The first half of the hike I was enjoying. Lots of great views. pretty easy forest road to follow, and all the rock faces on high top were really awesome. I didn't really mind the Fork Mountain Trail either, or the initial bushwhack up to Birdstand Mountain. But my decision to bushwhack to those cliffs on Birdstand Mountain really took a lot out of me. It was a lot more difficult than I expected, and it was very irritating and frustrating pushing through all of those shrubs. I basically summited the mountain twice, and since I didn't finish that until after 4 o'clock, I had to skip my initial plan, which was to follow the trail down to the river crossing. That probably would have sucked anyways, but I did miss the bushwhack to Boulderfield Falls. So I ended up taking the shorter loop, which follows an abandoned forest road along Cathy Ridge and into Cathy Cove. And that was by far the worst abandoned forest road I've ever encountered, especially the upper mile or so. It was impassable by any standards. There was littered with deadfall. It's like that road was abandoned 60, 70 years ago, and hemlocks, dead trees, and storms have just knocked everything down over the forest road. And where there wasn't deadfall, there were rhododendrons and hardwood saplings growing all over the trail. So when I wasn't crawling under and over and around deadfall, I was getting hit in the face by so many saplings. It was so slow. It got a little better about halfway through. There's less deadfall, but still, it was awful. I don't recommend anyone doing that. And I imagine if I did the other route to the river crossing, that abandoned forest road would have sucked too. So if you're interested in doing this hike, really what you're looking for is just to go up to high top, enjoy all those rock faces, and then turn around. And that would be probably about a 6-mile hike, and you might be able to fit something else in later in the day. Do not do what I did. That sucked. But anyways, hope you guys learned something about this area. It's barely hiked, and you can definitely tell on these trails. So I'll see you guys next time on the trail.